All right, it's 2:38. Good afternoon once again. Welcome to today's edition of our special Hot Topics segment. On the dish, my name is Ifunaya. Kel is here.
Hi.
Ayana and
Hello.
Gumma are here as well. Today we're going to be talking about a topic for some reason that has been touched on a whole lot in recent times, which is vulnerability, right? Now, there's several descriptions and definitions of vulnerability, but I will put it in context. First off, the question for today is this: do women really want vulnerable men? And I'll start off by saying this. Women and men speak different languages. Men are seen sometimes as more rigid than women, and women seen as more emotional, men being seen as more rational, women being seen as more sentimental. So we speak different languages. And sometimes you hear women say things like, I want him to just, listen or understand or at least be emotional or express his emotions or let me in. Sometimes he seems very closed in. I want him to understand that I'm there for him. And sometimes you hear men say things like, well, this is how I was raised to respond to issues. If I'm going through certain things, I want to keep it to myself for a while, or I want to talk to my boys about it, or I just don't want to express my emotions. And so this obviously brings some form of friction and conflict. Hence the reason why conversations of vulnerability have been had in recent times. When I say vulnerability, I mean openness. When a man is open, when he's, transparent, and when he does not hold back when it comes to his emotions. He expresses his emotions. If he's feeling down, if he's feeling sad, if he wants to cry, or cry in front of you, no need to go behind closed doors acting like a quote-unquote man or masculine man. So that's vulnerability in context of today's topic. Do women really want a vulnerable man? Is that what they want? Do they just say just because? Or if they have a man that is actually vulnerable, is that what they would prefer? So let's have that conversation. And if you're listening, ladies, gentlemen, ladies, is that the type of man that you really want? Do you want a man that wears his emotions on his sleeves? You want a man that is super open, super honest, super transparent? And men, in your experience of being vulnerable and open, was it accepted the best way by your woman? Do you think that she became maybe less respectful when you were being too vulnerable or too open or too honest? Let's have that conversation. The phone lines to call 0809 234 5913, 0809 222 0913, 0809 191 3913. You can also call 01 515 0913, 01 515 1913. On Twitter, it's at LagosTalks913. Please use the hashtag #TheDishLagos. And on WhatsApp, it's 0809 234 5913. Please turn off your radio. Good afternoon. Who's speaking, please?
Yes, good afternoon. This is Ibukun.
Ibukun, welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, speaking of vulnerability, I think what women want, and from my experience, is a guy that is honest, open, and strong. So what happens is that we tend to confuse vulnerability with being soft or being weak. Vulnerability just means you're saying, okay, babe, this is my issue, or this is what I'm going through, or this is what I'm struggling with right now, and this is how I intend to go about, conquering it, or I would like your advice on how best to go about this issue, or this is the plan I have, or I'm stuck, I'm stumped, I don't know how to go about this, can you help me? Now, I don't, in my sense, that hasn't demeaned the relationship between a man and a woman. I think what people get wrong is when they see being vulnerable as being a weakling. And then you're crying and, the man saying, no, I can't do this, and he's wailing, woe is me. No, that's not vulnerability. There's actually strength in being vulnerable, in being able to come out and say, this is my issue. But it takes a certain level of courage to be able to do that. And, it's because you don't understand the difference. That's why we have people that lock things inside, and we have toxic masculinity. When you believe that, to be a guy means you take it all in. And, just suffer it, and you're suffering, and then you start either taking it out on your partner or people around you, or you take it out on yourself. And you give yourself, you hold yourself up and basically you're self-destructing little by little. So I think, from my experience, and I believe that, yes, be vulnerable, be open, and where you don't have a plan to make yourself feel better or get out of the situation, that's why you have a partner. Two heads are better than one. You talk to her, and she can end up giving you ideas, and you work on it together. The advantage is that when you have these issues, and something happens, for example, if you're afraid of swimming, or you have a fear of water because you almost drowned when you were a kid, if you don't tell your wife or your girlfriend who loves to go to the beach, she'll always wonder, why is this guy just always clamping down anytime I want to go out? And she doesn't understand. But if she understands that, this is a fear, and you're both trying to work around it, even when you falter and you fall and maybe are afraid some days, she'll understand that, okay, he had a traumatic experience in the past, and he's still dealing with it. So that's my own opinion.
All right. Thank you very much. Very well said. So, Kel, let's start with you in-house.
Sorry, I'm laughing. My mind keeps sleeping.
It keeps on falling off my
So my rubber band's on the floor.
I
have to fix it.
We'll fix it. All right. So, Kel, a lot of times when we talk about vulnerability and when we talk about the man and the woman essence, for a man, we see masculinity as firm, as strong, as hard. For the woman, we see femininity as, soft, emotional, sentimental. And people say the way women and men were created, they were created to complement each other, meaning that we ought not to be the same. We are different, right? Now, women say they want a man that is vulnerable, a man that is open, honest, emotional, right? Do you think, from your experience, that that's exactly what women want, and that if they get that type of man, that they would be able to relate with them as well as, as well as the man, for instance, expects to be treated and to be related to?
Well, I can't speak for all women, but I believe that if men were a bit more open, when it comes to communication, when it comes to sharing their feelings, in the sense of, if something rubs you a wrong kind of way, you just give voice to it. Nobody's saying, start to whine about it or start to cry about it. No, just open your mouth and speak. Let them know where it is pinching you. I think things would be a bit easier, because sometimes women don't understand when men just put up a wall around them, because it's their way of dealing with things. Most men that I've spoken to, that's the way that they prefer to deal with their things. Just put up a wall and shut everybody out. And maybe if they even want to talk to somebody, maybe they speak to maybe their brother or their very close friend, but they wouldn't even really necessarily want to talk to the woman that they are with, because in their eyes, it's burdening her. You're trying to burden this woman with your problems. Whether she can fix it or not, you don't even want to think about that. You just don't want to disturb her, or you don't want to be seen as less than. So I think that it would really help a lot in relationships if men were a bit more vulnerable. And I think being vulnerable doesn't necessarily mean showing weakness. I think it just means being more human and not trying to be Superman.
Interesting. Goma, I just want to ask a question very quickly. Just taking a look at men and vulnerability, do you think that a man's lack of vulnerability is more of a biological makeup or a societal makeup? Is it a natural thing for a man to not be as open and as emotional? Or is it more a societal makeup?
Sorry, I'm thinking. I think vulnerability is innate and instinctual, in the sense that it's a natural impulse, desire to want to express vulnerability. Even if my boyfriend or my husband is not talking to me, he's talking to someone else. So meaning that you are expressing that vulnerability to someone else. So it's expected from both genders. But I think the way in which men and women express and experience vulnerability might be different. Hence, when we talk about vulnerability, we look at it through the female lenses,
Of course.
and we miss out how we can handle men expressing their vulnerability. But I would say the way in which men express their vulnerability might be more based on socialization as opposed to genetic. And I think the reason for that is because if you look at how a girl child and a boy child
Are raised.
or groomed, you see that a girl child is playing with a baby doll or a baby carriages, and that suggests nurture, that suggests compassion, love, and all of those things. But the boy, he plays with, guns and all of those things, and that suggests strength. So, when we then expect, or when we see a man expressing vulnerability, it threatens what we associate vulnerability, which is strength. We associate men not expressing vulnerability as strength. So the moment they begin to express that vulnerability, it just dismantles what we already know, which is why some women don't know how to handle men who express vulnerability. You see, and God forbid if a man cries, we begin to say that, oh, you're weak, or you're not manly enough, or you're soft. And I've heard men, say that the moment I began to express or to become more open to my girlfriend or to my wife, she was less attracted to me. It just reduces that attraction. So, but I think for me, based on my experience, I think maybe my past relationship, what I've noticed is, my ex-boyfriend, what I noticed was that the way he expresses vulnerability is based on information. In the sense that, let's say, for example, he tells me, oh, I don't have money, and I was broke for a couple of months. He's telling me to just inform me that was what happened to him before, as opposed to, oh, I don't have money now, right? So it's kind of like a form of information, as opposed to, oh, I'm telling you what is happening to me now, because they just feel like I need to sort things out. And even if I decide to be vulnerable, I want to ensure that I've solved that situation so that you don't see me as weak. So men and women have been conditioned to understand vulnerability in a different way. So thereby, when a guy expresses vulnerability, you be like, no, this is not the guy that I want. Because I want a guy who, is all about strength. It's all about, being, forthright and forbearing and all of those things. So the moment you begin to express vulnerability through the female lenses, it reduces that attraction.
Now, Ayana, I want to know if you think, or if you believe that vulnerability, especially coming from a man, breeds disrespect from the woman.
I'm going to start with a song. You need a man with sensitivity. Ralph Tresvant said it best. See, this, our social construct, has damaged a lot of us. That's the honest truth. Like Ogoma rightly mentioned, we've been conditioned in such a way. Because I think that, for me personally, a man who's open, who is in touch with his innate feelings, is key for me. A lot of men have been brought up in such a way that you don't even know when they're going through the motions. And you know what they say about a problem, whatever, you may not necessarily give me the in toto that would make me want to jump off a bridge or anything, but that ability to be able to share your pain, to be able to share your worries, for all you know, I may be able to come up with an option you've never even thought about. True. So I don't know if the word for me would be, for you to be vulnerable. I think it's open and being able to communicate. A lot of Nigerians, I always laugh when I see statements on Twitter that, oh, you can't take these girls out. After 2 or 3 sentences, I laugh because you know what? The reality, and let's be honest, ladies, Nigerian men don't know how to hold a conversation. Let's be realistic.
All about the physical.
No, a lot of Nigerian guys. See, guys, no disrespect to you people, but I'm being honest. A lot of Nigerian guys cannot hold a conversation. You know, some people tell you that because of your.
I agree because it's not.
So
No,
it
it
makes sense
to me that
don't call you arrogant.
Talking to somebody and the conversation is so good, I start to get attached to them because it's hard for me to find good conversation.
That's spot on. I've actually liked people not because of how they look or whatever, but because we can actually have a deep, as in mind blowing. You know, and we're talking about life. Do you understand? We're not even talking about nonsense.
Yeah.
We're talking about life issues. And some of these guys are coming correct. But what I found out, and that's why I laugh when I see those statements on Twitter, when guys make them that, oh, these girls, there's nothing there. I laugh. I'm like, sit down with a Nigerian guy. Like your typical average Nigerian guy that has probably grown up in this country. I'm sorry they can't hold a candle to a conversation.
Wow.
So outside of that, you know, things like, even now, I've had instances to correct cousins and even people, maybe some of my mates that have children. When the boy hurts himself, and they go, you're a guy, you're a boy, don't cry. And I'm like, So you people have started at this level. But sometimes they don't see it until you sit them down and explain to them. Because let me tell you, you cannot carry your burdens alone.
Very true.
What is the point of a partnership? What is the point of being in a relationship with somebody? What is the point of somebody being the mother of your children when you can't communicate with her? When it's your boys at the bear parlor or wherever, or the lounge or the club or whatever, who are not going to rub your back at night or make the home even conducive enough for you to be able to think. Like, keep the children away. You know, daddy has a lot of stuff on his mind right now, so don't make too much, or you take them to another part of the house or something. Let me tell you, there's strength in numbers. That thing does not lie.
All right.
So that's
Ayana,
it.
very well said. Now, just taking it back to something that you mentioned about how they groom and socialize boys to believe that expressing themselves is weakness and it should not be done by a man. Rather, you should expect a girl to do that. What are your thoughts about people who believe that at that age, when you're grooming your child and you don't instill that sort of mentality or mindset, especially in the male child, that we would begin to see a lot more effeminate men? Because there's sometimes in conversation where people say things like they don't make them like they used to make them, before. Right now, we don't see, and this is based on conversation being had, not my personal opinion. They believe that right now we don't see men stepping up to the occasion, rising up and, quote and unquote, taking responsibility, especially when it comes to you and your family, because the man is seen as the leader. The man is seen as the, the power tower of the family. And if you don't instill that in them when they're much younger, you would see that they would grow up to be more effeminate than men. And before we dissect that, remember at the beginning, I made very clear that men and women are different. We speak different languages. Of course. And with just the way life is in general and with the way nature is, everything complements each other. We can't expect women to be like men. So it means that masculinity, that masculine essence is absolutely necessary to complement the feminine essence. Right? So how then do you, would you advise, parents, especially when they're bringing up their male child, to ensure that they are open to being emotional or open to being expressive, but yet retaining that masculinity and that strength that comes with being a man?
I think it's just a matter of letting them know that being expressive or being sensitive to your partner's needs or letting your partner know exactly what it is that is going on with you doesn't equate weakness. It doesn't make you less of a man. It doesn't mean that you won't be able to handle your responsibilities as the man of the house. It just means that whoever is in your life, you have to understand that that is your person, that is your partner. So whatever you're sharing with that person, you might as well just be sharing with yourself when it comes to your trials or the bad days that you're having or the challenges that you're facing. It doesn't take away from the fact that you are still the man of the house. You are still the protector, so to speak. It's all about letting them know that, look, being human does not mean you are now a weak fellow and you cannot do anything else with your life.
Except, just to buttress what you've said, except you have every reason to believe that person doesn't have your back. Because sometimes you get into relationships or you're in a marriage and you realize that woman is actually your problem. But that's the truth.
True.
And you see, unfortunately, we have these notions, because as far as I'm concerned, they're notions, they're not truths, they're not facts, that we believe that, like the question Ify asked, that, it makes them more effeminate. No. Expressing yourself does not. It makes you an effective communicator. It's not about you being effeminate. But unfortunately, we've done it in such a way that we're made to believe that, if he opens up. And then unfortunately, some women believe in that notion, and they rely, and then because I didn't actually answer your question that you asked, then it's room for me to, he's weak, he's a sissy, then I can disrespect him. Unfortunately, quite a few women do that as well.
Yeah.
They will disrespect that man because he's shown that he's expressive. So it's these notions that we have to change, and they've been around forever. So I don't know how we're going to do that.
I think, I'm trying to. So I think at least for me, I see vulnerability as a form of intimacy. I'm the kind of person in a relationship. I'm the kind of person that asks the uncomfortable question.
Okay. All right. I like that. Let's just get on WhatsApp and take the phone calls that have been coming in since. I do apologize. Lagos Talks. Good afternoon. Who's speaking?
Good afternoon. Have you on the line?
All right. Let's hear you very quickly.
The quick one. Vulnerability, or so to say. I think you shouldn't be used as a tool to shame someone. You get, like, is understanding person's weakness. And at times, I wanted to put this question. Have you seen your parents cry in the presence, or like in your
I've actually
presence?
seen my mom and my dad cry. So.
Okay, yeah. And doesn't make them less of being parents. I think so. I think you bringing balance, having understanding that everyone's different and weakness shouldn't be used to shame them, but just to complement each other and for balance. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mazi Emeka is saying women don't want vulnerable men. What they want is a macho, Superman, and a magician. This is coming from listeners saying, hello, gorgeous ladies. Also, Marcel. On this topic, first, I'd like to say it depends on your definition of vulnerability. Vulnerability is different from being emotional. I don't think being emotional is considered as vulnerability in a man. If we are talking of women liking emotional men, I think it varies. Some women like men to show their feelings and tears. And some, however, probably the really girly, princessy women, I think those ones would prefer a man who shows no vulnerability, a Prince Charming / Superman. For me, I show my emotions, and if you don't think it makes me, and I don't think it makes me weak in any way. This is coming from a listener saying, it's very hard to get a vulnerable person. This one is coming from Amaka saying, hi, Ify. I'm a first timer. Hello, Amaka. And she's saying, my husband is very open to me and I love him more for that. I like that. Jaja is saying the question should be, what do women want? Do you want a vulnerable man or not? So that we men can see a reason to adjust or a reason to remain the way we are. You know how men are built. I, for one, prefer to handle my issues myself. I rather spend time solving my problems than speaking about them. I don't even talk about it to my male friends. And I believe it's my personal problem and I don't have any trouble with anyone. This is coming from Chief Udo saying, good afternoon, ladies. Being vulnerable depends on the type of lady you are dating or marrying. I have a lady that used this against me. And I once confessed to my ex that I mistakenly kissed her friend at a birthday party, although I wasn't caught. And she started suspecting me anytime I get close to even her own sister. And it made the relationship not to last. And you know what? One thing that people actually mistake for openness and vulnerability is the absence of consequences. The fact that you were open and the fact that you're vulnerable does not take you away from the consequences.
Especially if you hurt the person.
You're being
open. Vulnerable. He was confessing.
Yeah, exactly. Because you hurt somebody. So that's there's a consequence to hurting somebody. And
exactly.
You mistakenly kiss somebody.
This is coming from a listener saying, I told my girlfriend my upbringing, personal stuff about my family and all that, and then she told me that she's not sure if she wants to continue with the relationship. We're still together, but there are things that I don't think I can tell her again. This is from Gabriel saying, exhibiting vulnerability from some men is more or less depends on who they are with. There are times he would drop a crumb, and if he notices that you use it against him, he will go back into his shell, and it takes time to come out of it. This is coming from a listener saying, good afternoon, ladies. Speaking about vulnerability, I completely agree with Ayana. There's power in numbers. Let me share my personal experience. It's long, but please read. Sometime in November 2019, I invested heavily in a business that went south. This affected me. I became cranky towards my wife and kid. In my mind, I hid the situation from her so she doesn't get worried about it, because quite frankly, we were in deep financial crap. So because she had no idea, she never really understood why I changed drastically. To cut the long story short, we're good now, debt-free, but our business is running smoothly, and all this couldn't have happened without the help of my wife. The moment I shared the truth of the situation with her, she swung into action, and she now understood why I changed and helped through the process.
You see? Bam.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Bam.
Yeah.
It's 5 minutes past 3, guys.
That's what we're talking about.
Thank you so much to everyone who has contributed. I would wrap up by saying this, because everyone has spoken brilliantly. The question being, do women want a vulnerable man or not? I believe the answer is yes. However, the issue is, do women know how to handle a vulnerable man? Do women know how to handle it when a man is vulnerable, is being open, who is being honest, who is being transparent? The reason why I say this is because we have very poor orientation. Growing up, the way boys are treated, the way women are treated. Women are allowed to be so expressive. Men have to, suck it up because you're a man. And because of that training and that orientation, women grow up expecting men to be firm and strong, and that meaning that you're not emotional or you're not as expressive as I am as a woman. And so women grow up having that opportunity to be more expressive and being able to hide under the umbrella, or should I say, get under the umbrella of, well, I'm feminine, so I'm expected to express myself this way or be more expressive, but then you're masculine, you're a guy, and you ought not to express yourself in that manner. And so when women grow up into women, what is expected in a relationship is understanding. I expect that he understands me. I expect that he opens up to me, right? Because it's part of our expectations as human beings. This is what we want, as human beings. But then when that happens, it seems like some women may not be able to handle it, because in as much as, yes, that's what they want, they were not taught to handle it. Because now there is a conflict between what they're getting right now, which is what they want, a man that is open to them, and what they were taught when they were much younger, which is that a man ought not to be vulnerable and open. And so because of that conflict, there's a disconnect. And because there's a disconnect, this probably might now breed friction and issues between men and women in relationships. And so I believe that this conversation needs to go down deep into the root. The way we are bringing up our children now, let's make them understand, especially the male child, the boy child, that expression doesn't mean weakness. That expression means that you are a human being. And like Ayana said, that you are a good communicator, that you're able to say how you feel at any given point in time. And let women also know that the fact that he's a boy and expresses himself doesn't make him any less of a man, doesn't make him any, less of a human being because he's expressing himself. And I feel like a whole lot of that needs to happen. Now, for those who are already in their adulthood, I believe that women and men need to understand that men and women speak two completely different languages. And if you're a woman that expects vulnerability in a particular way, which is based on how you view vulnerability, that's not how you might get it from a man. The fact that the man may not be wailing, and crying and showing that he's so emotional doesn't mean he's not being vulnerable. There are so many ways a man can express vulnerability. It could be in conversation, opening up about what he's experiencing at the time. And so I believe that men and women need to understand their languages so that when this language is being communicated to you, you're able to take it, you're able to accept it. So if you're in a relationship right now and you feel like, oh, he's not opening up, or he doesn't really show that he's feeling sad, or he doesn't really show that, he's being emotional, I mean, I can't really tell you about your relationship more than you could tell me about it. But one thing that I could say is look for other avenues that he might be expressing vulnerability. He might be opening up to you, but you're not the signs. You're not seeing the signs because you don't understand vulnerability in that language. And so that's where the miscommunication lies. So take a look at it and figure out what language is his vulnerability. Identify it and respond to that language as well. I believe all in all, we should teach each other and our children especially to understand the difference between vulnerability and weakness. Teach them, let them understand, let them not grow up stifled, being in a position where they're constantly imploding because it's either they're not expressing themselves, they don't have anyone that they're talking to. And if you notice, it's easier for men to take on addictive behaviors because if you're not expressing yourself, there's an outlet. Do you understand? So the fact that you're not expressing yourself to your family members, you're not expressing yourself to your loved ones, you're expressing yourself in a different way. Hence the reason why, men are more prone to addictive behaviors. And so we need to begin to teach our boy child how to express themselves and let them know that it's not weakness. And also teach the female child to accept, the boy child or men when they grow up, how they express themselves and for them not to see it as weakness. It's 10 minutes past 3. Thank you so much, everyone who was a part of our hot topic for today. Ayana, Ugoma, Kellyanne, thank you so much. Before saying goodbye, would you like to drop
today.
your...
Very nice hot topic.
Yeah.
Very
enjoyed
educative
it.
too.
I love
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at KelOnline is my handle everywhere. Have an amazing Wednesday. Happy hump day.
Just to quickly add, because something popped into my head as Ify was doing the outro, so to speak. You know that when these guys hold these things in, they frustrate you. Because, we're looking at all the signs as to why divorce is so rampant. Sometimes they push you to the edge. So, it's about finding that balance. I'm not married, but hey, these are the kind of things I would want in a marriage. And these are the kind of things I'm willing to give of myself in a marriage. So, guys, take care. Be safe. Please, be security conscious. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Ayana Bijou. That's AYANABIJOUX. On Facebook at Ayana Bijou, 2 words.
And you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Ugoma_A.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being a part of the show for today. I do appreciate it. Thank you for your contribution via Twitter, via WhatsApp, and via the phone lines. Remember, our special Hot Topics segment happens Wednesdays at 2:30. Make it a date with us. Now, for those who've missed out on our so many fun, enlightening Hot Topics, check it out on YouTube, Lagos Talks 913. Remember to subscribe to our channel, like our video, watch our video, of course, comment, and share the videos. And, keep binge watching. Watch as many times as you like, and ensure that you never miss out on any of our Hot Topics segments. You can reach out to me on Instagram and on Twitter at Ify_I, that is IFY_I. Now, don't forget to follow Lagos Talks across all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Lagos Talks 913. The midday show isn't over yet. I'm still here with you, so ensure that you stay tuned for more amazing content. Stick around.